We are addressing you, fellow Zimbabweans, at a time where we are facing a huge economic crisis, with the Zimbabwean dollar on a free fall, inflation soaring, the energy running short, poor health service facilities, dilapidated infrastructure, and high levels of corruption, among other vices that have poisoned our country. Zimbabwe's annual inflation rate is currently at more than 455%. The Zimbabwean dollar continues to lose value against the US dollar, now trading at US 1:2,000 RTGS. The twin evils that have poisoned our economy is inflation and corruption. It is clear to us and is clear to every Zimbabwean that it is impossible to use propaganda to run an economy. More than 50% of our people are living in abject poverty, millions suffering, and majority of our workers living below the poverty datum line and getting salaries that are extremely meager. We find ourselves witnessing the plunder of national resources such as gold and other minerals and land to the benefit of the few and never the many. As CCC, we are deeply concerned that more than a month after the Al Jazeera documentary, a unit that exposed money laundering activities, gold smuggling, illicit financial flows, underhand gold dealings and tradings, and other corrupt activities by the political elite presiding over our country, we are very much worried that up to date nothing has been done to bring to justice those that are implicated in this huge scandal. And not only the gold scandal, but also the siphoning of our resources illegally so in different aspects of our country, be it in lithium, be it in diamonds, and so forth. All these activities of corruption are a huge scourge into the country's economy. We definitely demand that at this juncture it is important for the president to address the nation and all the people who are implicated in these corrupt deals to be brought to book. After investigations, we expect that all the criminals and all the people who are involved in these criminal activities the law should take its course. We continue to witness the abuse of state institutions, particularly the traditional leadership in the countryside by the corrupt mafia regime in Harare. Vote buying is becoming so prevalent, intimidation and capture is also now the order of the day as we enter into the shadows of the next election. Recently, ZANU-PF publicly announced that they will be using traditional leaders to force the electorate to vote for their party in violation of Chapter 15, Section 15, Chapter 280 of the Zimbabwean Constitution, something which is not allowed, something which is ultra-vires the provision of the Constitution, read together with the Electoral Act of our country. Knowing that it is no longer attractive to the electorate, having a presidential candidate who is unelectable and very much unpopular, the corrupt regime in Harare is controversially who use title deeds to try and abuse and display politics of patronage as we enter into the next election. But it is clear that the people of Zimbabwe are aware that such triggers and trappings of dictatorship are meant but nothing that is directed to change their concrete realities, particularly in the medium and long term. Now, having given the perspective on the current state of our country, let me go to the gist of our press conference, which is the preparedness of our movement in terms of this year's election. We made it clear when we began the year that this year is declared the citizen victory for change. It is the march of the Zimbabwean citizens towards victory and the possible democratic breakthrough. The movement, the citizens' movement, has been preparing particularly for that march to victory, and the following three areas have been central in our program of action as we prepare for victory. First and foremost, we have been pushing the reform agenda, particularly through Parliament as a point of entry. We have made our submissions to Parliament, though there have been challenges around the adoption of some of our propositions on the key reform that is articulated in our document called the Pre-Election Pact on Reforms, a document that summarizes 7 fundamental reforms. In those reforms, we demand immediate reform, particularly on media reforms, which is basically free access to state media and free coverage to all political parties, not just CCC, but every political party that is registered and is contesting in the next election. We also articulated to Parliament in our presentation our belief that there must be, of course, the transparent transmission of results in real time as a key fundamental reforms that we think is going to be dealt with. Thirdly, we also articulated before Parliament our reform demand around the voters' roll. You know, fellow Zimbabweans, members of the media, that the voters' roll is an essential tool if we are to have free and fair and credible elections. So we articulated that the voters' roll is an important tool that must be availed, must be auditable, and these demands are in line with the provisions of the law, which is the Electoral Act and the Constitution of Zimbabwe. Secondly, we have also embarked on regional and global advocacy. We have articulated clearly to the international community and all those who care to listen about the political situation in the country and the need for our regional and global players to assist us to have free and fair elections if we are to have a legitimate government and uncontested state. We do this because you know that for the past 2 decades, Zimbabwe has been dealing with a contested state, and therefore the international community bears the mandate to assist us as fellow sisters and brothers in the region, particularly the African Union, so that we hold free and fair elections, so that we have a legitimate government of the people, by the people, from the people. So in that regard, we've had conversations, deployments in the region and in the continent, and of course in the globe, so that Zimbabwe post-election can be able to rejoin broadly the community of nations and be a credible partner in the geopolitics of the world. Thirdly, we have also, in our preparations of March to Victory, the citizens movement, fellow Zimbabweans, has been embarking on a process of candidate selection process, which is basically anchored on our third pillar to produce citizen-centric candidate who must be able to represent the movement in the harmonized election. So let me go directly into the stages that we articulated. Firstly, we met at the Citizen National Assembly in the capital city to debate and discuss the process of candidate selection away from the historic events that were done to produce candidates. We have introduced a process, not an event, and this process has 4 stages as was articulated by independent commission. The first stage is the nomination of candidate, which happened and was approved to be given a week. It happened across the entire country. We have gave update on that. The second process was, of course, the vetting of all the candidates who were nominated from across the country, and then the third process being the vetting of the candidates, and lastly, the issuing of the candidate list, which is the final list of citizen representatives who are going to represent the party both in local authorities, in parliament, and the person to represent us as the presidential candidate. We are happy to make the world and citizens and all interested parties to be aware that we have completed our vetting process, and in a date to be announced in a few days to come, all the vetted candidates are going to be proceeding to our citizen caucus. And let me explain in brief what the citizen caucus will be all about. You know that part of our vetting process, we're looking at the credibility and the credentials of our candidate to represent the movement, and at the center of our credentials form, we're looking at one's political history, issues of corruption, which is intolerable to us. We're also looking at issues of criminal records, and of course cases of one's historical contribution to the movement and the community. It is in that respect that all the vetted candidates are going to be proceeding to present to the citizen caucuses across the entire part of the country what they intend to do to change the concrete lives of the ordinary people in their communities, but also more importantly to contribute to the agenda of developing our country. For Parliament, we are also looking at people's presentation around their legislative agenda to transform the legislative framework of our country, make laws for the benefit of the ordinary people, and advance a legislative agenda that protects the oppressed, who in our view are at the center of the national democratic project, which we are prosecuting at the current moment. The presidential candidate again was overwhelmingly nominated, as was confirmed by more than 36,000 forms that we received filled by different citizens from across the country in villages and townships to confirm without doubt that they prefer Advocate Nelson Chamisa to be our presidential candidate in the upcoming elections. Councillors again are going to be presenting their manifestos and propositions on how they intend to transform the lives of ordinary people in the communities and wards that they belong. The appeals committee has been set in motion, and this office opened on 24-hour basis for the purpose of those who might be appealing against them being vetted out, or anyone with the queries, because we respect principles of natural justice, particularly the right to be heard and free trial for those who might feel disadvantaged or ill-treated in any levels of our four-stage process. It is in that respect that we are setting into motion our movement to ensure that post the candidate selection process, we focus on our next stages, which is the launch of our different political blueprints, and focus on the campaign message, and focus on the key national questions that we intend to address come the set of the election. So after which we are going to announce to the citizen of this country post our caucus in terms of the successful candidate after the consensus. You are aware that there are some candidates that have been overwhelmingly nominated in different parts of the country to be members of parliament and councillors, and those will be confirmed after our caucuses, and of course they will also participate in the caucuses. Very interestingly, because some people from different sections of society, we are happy because it is reflective that this is an organic citizens movement, because in our nomination processes, in the vetting process, some of the vetted candidates are coming from the labor movement, with other candidates coming from the student fraternity, former student leaders. We've got also former human rights defenders who are also being nominated. We've got war veterans. For example, with people like Margaret Dongo being nominated overwhelmingly by a big majority in Mashonaland West. We also have people from the business community being nominated, particularly in council, because of their experience, which is needed to run the cities going forward. We also have members who belong to different political outfits before, who have been nominated to join the movement with the intention to represent the citizens' movement. Fellow citizens, we are happy with the process. We are looking forward to ensure that we focus on the next stages of our political program and campaign. We thank the citizens for their support of their movement. We are going to be announcing, as I've stated, different stages of our campaign program. We are happy. We thank the citizens who came with so much excitement. There were some who were sending their nominations via our online platforms, text messages, giving their opinions. Those were very important in the vetting of our candidates, because these platforms, particularly the cell phone numbers that we distributed across the country, for the people to give some of the important information to our vetting committee as to the character and the credentials of certain candidates who have been nominated. We confirmed this with the existing residue that President Chamisa was overwhelmingly nominated. Let me maybe clarify that we are not going into a contest. It was a nomination process and never a contest. The citizens of this country were the ones given the mandate to nominate, not the candidates nominating themselves. It was the citizens nominating, and the residue that we've received has only confirmed Advocate Nelson Chamisa. If there is any other candidate, maybe in other political parties, other candidates have been nominated, but in the citizens movement, Advocate Nelson Chamisa, so far with the residue that we have, unless there can be other nominations that can be requested by anyone to make any nomination, but thus far, that's the nomination that we have, and Advocate Nelson Chamisa was nominated from across the entire part of the country. We are very happy for us as a movement, because we have a strong electable presidential candidate, contrary to our competitors who have an unelectable and unpopular presidential candidate. And that's why their intention in their little corners and fiefdoms was to try and smuggle any other candidate who's weaker. So as the citizens, as the people of Zimbabwe, we are happy that the citizens nominated a candidate who has a very greater chance of bringing the much needed democratic breakthrough. The question on President Chamisa's travel, look, I'm sure you are aware that the constitution of this country allows anyone to travel freely anywhere across the entire part of the country and the globe. But let me confirm that President Chamisa had a few meetings in the African continent and is back in the country. As I'm speaking to you, he's actually having a meeting with our elections department in his office. And we have had briefing with the principal according to our procedures, and he's rightly in the country and is continuing with his political business in the country. The question, my brother, thank you very much about the question on youth and women. What we have done as a movement is to ensure that we provide a fair platform for everyone, not just according to age. Okay, I'll interpret that. Thank you. So what we have done is to make sure that we encourage young people, we encourage women, we encourage different vulnerable groups. We have seen how we have made sure that we've got also other people in the leeway of where the party is able to nominate and deploy people in council proportional representatives of different vulnerable groups. And it's not only the youth and women, we've also extended that to people living with disabilities, we've extended that to different people of culture so that we're able to have a leadership that is representative of all the sections of society. And we're very happy because if you look at the current nominations, a majority of them are women, majority of them are young people and people of different groups. And we're happy because submitting this process to ordinary people made it possible for different people, because traditionally, if you look at other political jurisdictions, when you do just an event to elect candidates, and in that event I talk about primary elections, the danger with that is that only those with fat pockets, only those who have proximity to certain people running the process are the ones who were able traditionally to come as candidate. But this process now allows even anyone who has worked with the community, because it's only the people who see the heart and mind of certain political deployees. That's why you see young people, irregardless of their economic status, being nominated by citizens to be represented in parliament and in council, and the party respects fundamentally, particularly these particular nominations that are coming from the people, for the people, by the people. So we have no doubt in our mind that when the commission announces the final list of the candidates, we are going to see a greater majority of young people. And this is very important because one of the revolutions that we are implementing as a citizens movement is to ensure that we deploy people who are capable into parliament. I think every Zimbabwean is exhausted about sleepists. Every Zimbabwean is exhausted about incompetent people failing to hold the executive account, irregardless of which political party occupies the executive. We need a parliament that is able to craft the law. We need a parliament that is competent. We need a parliament that is able to represent the conscious will of ordinary people. And therefore, young people are very essential in that particular democratic revolution. Women, of course, are very important because they occupy the greater population majority in our country, and their representation is very important to us. And we are happy that also members with disabilities, people of different color, people of different traditions, people of different historic belongings have been nominated. The labor movement bringing the necessary political oomph into our politics and a breath of fresh air. And of course, people with liberation credentials, so that we are not deviating from the central objectives of the liberation struggle as custodians and guiders and drivers of the liberation project to the transformation consensus which we are prosecuting under the capable leadership of African Nelson Chamisa. Let me start with the question by Ru about young people. We are very much focused on competence. We very much focus on one's credibility. We are very much focused on one's ability to lead with distinction and clarity and precision, as it were. And we are happy that citizens were able to monitor people who went to parliament, people who went to council, and in terms of their capacity and commitment to their day-to-day realities. And it is up to the people to make those particular corrections. It is up to the people to ensure that everyone who's returned to parliament is on the basis of them holding a social contract with the people, because at the center of our politics, we have emphasized that we put citizens at the center and we are going to respect the collective will of the citizens' majority. The question on our nomination form, I think that we are very happy, and we received a lot of positive responses from the people who signed our form, because we focus mainly on 3 issues in our vetting form. Number 1, we focus on one's criminal records. That's why some people were demanded to produce fingerprints. The second element of our credentials was looking at one's academic history and credentials. The third element was looking at one's political history. The rest of the provisions were imported from the existing legal laws in our country, which is the Constitution, which is the Electoral Act, and other protocol manuals that exist that govern the politics of our country, such as one's gender, knowledge about their persuasions, and so forth. So all those are within the confines of what is in the Constitution, and our party is very much comfortable in the movement in terms of its rules and vetting process, and we have not received any challenge from the particular individuals who have been vetted, who know and understand. Let me make it very clear, for avoidance of doubt and confusion, that the misinterpretation deliberately so of our vetting template to try and make us people don't believe in freedom of conscience is wrong, because in our movement we solely believe and protect the freedoms of people, and part of that freedom is the freedom of conscience, is the freedom of people to belonging to any association of their choice. And that's why we ask those key questions. I'm sure those who have had swearing in different capacities in the country understand, and those that have read the preamble of our country can confirm that all Zimbabweans who have read the Constitution and swear allegiance to it bear the respect to the skies, bear the respect to God, as has been prescribed in the Zimbabweans preamble collectively by the people of Zimbabwe. We don't have a debate about people's proposition to have it amended. That is the people's choice and freedom, and we don't impose any particular values to people. But as a movement, we have our own beliefs and values associated with the constitution of this country and the collective beliefs of the greater majority of our people. Grace, a question about nomination fee. It is without doubt. We think that the nomination fee is exorbitant. We think that it must be revised so that leadership does not become commercialized, does not become a platform for those with riches, but it must be a platform for those with the ability to lead, for those with the connections with ordinary people. That is the essence of elections, and that is the essence of democracy. Thank you very much. So we are going to be pushing that particular issue, but nonetheless, we are going to make sure that all the nominated candidates from the party who are successful are going to be able to make their payments and proceed to be candidates. The question on imposition, we don't have any reserved seats, and we quash any possible propaganda within and without that tries to portray that particular narrative. The citizens are the ones that make the decisions. No one in the party within the rank and file of the movement has the ability to impose any candidate. We have made it very clear there are those who are tempted to think that they can import ZANU-PF's culture of trinkets and trappings and patronage as a basis. But if you look at our process, it exposes all possible chicanery, it exposes any attempt to deviate from the template, it exposes any attempt to try and manipulate our process for selfish gains. It produces at the end of the day authentic leadership that comes from the people, and I can confirm without doubt that not even any individual within the rank from top to bottom can be able to impose themselves upon the people. The people are going to make a choice, and we're going to respect the will of the people. On the question of people who have been over-nominated, yes, there are people who have been confirmed, but that does not mean that these people can begin to campaign, because you can only campaign external once you have been confirmed in the official candidate list that the party is going to produce, and that is going to be the final list of our A team that we are going to be making the nation aware, that we are also going to be making citizens aware in terms of who they should vote for. So we're going to publish 1,978 list of successful candidates, 210 members of parliament, and 1 presidential candidate. After that, all these said individuals, the presidential candidate that will be confirmed, members of parliament and councillors are going to be given the official mandate to begin their campaign. What is happening over the weekend are internal presentation of people's campaigns internal within the citizens so that people are aware. In some instances, there are some individuals who are nominated by the citizens, but some members, some citizens might not know them. So this is an opportunity for them to be known physically by the people, so that the people can be able to meet them tomorrow and hold them to account according to their promises. So we're not going to be accepting anyone doing any campaign at this particular stage. Is not advisable. It is an offense. It is the breach of the process, and it can attract problems for any individuals who might be moving around. We have had reports of people developing posters and flyers and messages. Some are changing their steps, some are marrying second wives, some second husbands, because of the motivation that they will be nominated to be candidates. The process is not yet over. This is not an event where you are nominated and you think you are a candidate. This is a process. So after the process is over of its 4 stages, then someone else can confirm. And after the independent electoral body can publicly announce to Zimbabweans before everyone that these are the final list of citizens that came from the people. I hope, okay.
One last one. We hear you have failed to get candidates in some places, like in Roach, Mani, and other places. Is this true?
Of course, let me assist the naysayers and doomsayers in that respect. Like I've explained to you, this is an event. This is not an event, but it is a process. Allow us to finish our process, and when we announce publicly the successful people, we can confirm whether we have areas where we don't have candidates or we have. The residue that we have, the process that was happening over the weekend was vetting of more than 25,000 people were being vetted, who were nominated, councillors, members of parliament, were being vetted from across the country. And these are the people who are going to go for caucuses, after which we are going to have them being announced as candidates. So it's absolutely not true. It's absolutely deliberately trying to create an impression that the citizens movement has not spread its tentacles across the country. We are happy with the overwhelming subscription. We have even challenged for avoidance of doubt those who say in a specific area that give us just a single word, so that we can, just for avoidance of confusion, empirically give you the number of candidates. You know that there was an example of Chimanimani. We have more than 6 candidates that were nominated there. We have more than 20-something councillors for the few ones that are there who are going to be going for the next stages and phases. So we are happy. We have got candidates all over the country. They are being vetted. We are expecting that once the caucuses are over, we announce the candidates and prove beyond any doubt if there are any challenges in terms of candidates across the country. Yes, Leo.
Okay, before I ask my question, probably ahead of Chikombezi, I had the people there were afraid to present their names as members of the Citizens Coalition for Change. And then my question would be, I heard you speak of the National Citizens Assembly, and I just wanted to know who comprises that assembly.
Thank you very much. The question on, I think that is Mwenezi, not Chikombezi. And it's a question that is worrying us, but does not confirm that we don't have candidates, because we have had situations like in Zaka just a day ago, where one of our nominees, one of the candidates nominated to be an MP in Zaka, was abducted. One of our candidates was taken by the police. So we've had these cases of intimidation of our candidates. That is why, without doubt, for strategic reasons, we've decided to make sure that our list is not publicized, because there was an intention to deliberately try and go to other candidates, intimidate them from being candidates. We are aware of this. It happened before, where candidates get intimidated and they are stopped from contesting under our movement. That's why, for the protection of our candidates, for the protection of our strategic processes, we're only going to announce at the final stages which is the candidate list. Only at that time we're going to give the final list. Before then, the list belongs to the commission and the relevant departments that have been given the responsibility to conduct our process. The other question about the National Assembly, of course, it is comprised of the different champions drawn from the 10 regions of our country. So that is the decision-making body mandated to make certain decisions of national importance for our movement. If there are any question? Yes, I think that will be the last question.
Okay, ndaida wangu kufunza ndisi msimu kuna makambo zitaura. Sasa makaita mna 2018 musuru mekunge musina kufara ne ma results. Vachaita seyu vanenge vasina kufara ne ma results final list chinenge ya unziwa ne committee.
Thank you very much. That's a very important question, and it lies within how we have articulated the central thematic direction of our appeals committee. Our appeals committee is informed by the principles of natural justice, particularly the principle to hear every side. We have a strong respect of everyone who has been nominated, and the appeals committee was set particularly to hear individuals who might be removed, vetted out of the process, to appeal if they are not happy with the outcome and the decisions of the appeal committee, and be given reasons to why they might have been vetted out of the process, or some people who might go into the citizen caucuses and discover that there is overwhelming minority that supports their candidate. They might not be comfortable, think that maybe the people who nominated overwhelmingly another candidate are not sober or are not happy with their candidate. They've got the right to appeal to the appeals committee and get clarification to say you are not a candidate because of 1, 2, 3 reasons. That's why we requested to the National Assembly a week period after the completion of the citizen caucuses, that there must be a week so that if there are any complaints before we announce the final list of our candidates, everyone has got the right to be heard, and we are going to fundamentally respect that right. I'm here to speak on behalf of the oppressed people of Zimbabwe, and not only on behalf of myself. Everyone is subjected to the process, and all the nominated candidates are going to be seen across the country presenting their manifestos, after which we are going to confirm through our commission the successful candidate, and any individual who has been nominated is going to go for this process, and we confirm. Thank you very much, members of the media, fellow Zimbabweans. Have a great day.